Hello and welcome to Gardening News and Views with Dr. John. I'm your host, and with me today is
Misty Kacharis with Burke Nursery and Garden Center. Thank you for having me here.
Well, we're co-hosting these shows, as you'll see them all spring long. Misty and I will be talking about all kinds of garden ideas and plants and flowers and trees and so forth, and we're sort of co-hosting it, okay? And before we get started, though, on the plant of the week and all that we're going to talk about today, let's take 30 seconds out for a thank you message. The funding for this program was made possible by Burke Nursery and Garden Center in Burke, Virginia. Burke is a full-line garden center with trees and shrubs, perennials and annuals, water garden supplies, houseplants, bird supplies, and they have a propane refill station. Burke also provides the public with an October month-long festival featuring hay rides, mountain slides, merry-go-rounds, pony rides, and much, much more. For more information, check their website or phone 703-323-1188. Hello, folks. If you just tuned in, you're watching Gardening News and Views with Misty and myself, John. And together we're going to be talking about all kinds of good things. How to get ready for spring, correct?
Absolutely.
All right. But before we start, why don't we talk about the plant of the week? You know, for years and years and years I've been doing this show, I always have a plant of the week. And today I picked pansies. You want to talk a little bit about them?
Oh, the pansies are wonderful plants. You had mentioned that they're technically perennials, but actually we have to treat them like annuals in our area. And I always call pansies 2 for the price of 1 because you can plant them in the fall.
That's right.
Usually they'll last throughout the winter months, and then come spring.
They're the first ones to say, spring is on its way.
Yes, little happy faces, little clown faces. And then the smaller ones are the violas.
Violas, yes.
And I found violas like to reseed and come back every year, the majority of them.
That's right, yeah. But pansies are easy to grow, folks. Stick them in the ground and say, spring is here. Aren't we all ready for it after this winter? Wow.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, talking about this winter, there was a lot of winter damage, wasn't there? It was so cold and there was no snow.
Oh, it was horrible.
There was a tremendous amount of winter damage. And I'd like to cover that before we get into other topics.
And
okay.
I see that you have some samples lying around
would you grab
here
that
as
one?
well.
I'll grab this one down here. Where's that bag? I had a bag here someplace.
You know, at Burke Nursery, I do diagnostics, and a lot of people will bring in plants at the time and ask me what could be wrong with the plant. This and what you have with the holly there, the magnolia here and the holly, I'm seeing a lot of this damage.
That's right.
And
Joe's going to pick up on that. Let's see that, Joe? See how he picks up on that? That's winter damage, okay? And here's another good example of winter damage. See that blossom, how it got frozen out? Because of see, we didn't have a lot of snow this year, and the snow didn't melt a little bit and keep the plants moist, and the wind was terrible. It just blew and blew and blew and caused a lot of damage.
And even some days we had...
Look at that.
Yeah, exactly. The same thing with the bud. And unfortunately, these buds will not open up because of the winter damage.
That's right. Now here's a healthy Pieris japonica. I brought this in for a reason. If I can find the other one. This is not winter damage, though. Now, Joe, zoom in real close on this one here first. See how terrible those leaves look? And how healthy these look? This is caused by an insect from last summer.
Right.
The lace bugs.
Exactly.
And on the back side of here, there's all kinds of eggs. So this is lace bug damage, not winter damage. And see how it's mottled like that? The lace bug has a mouth on it like a sewing machine. Goes in and out, sucking the chlorophyll out. And that's why it looks that way. Get out there and spray sometime in May or June with Orthene or a good insecticide. Go to Burke Garden Center and they'll tell you what to use on that. Okay? I guess that's enough we want to cover on this. Oh, we should tell them what they should do about their plants. On all your plants that are windburned and damaged, leave them alone until you see new sprouts coming up, and then cut just above that. Cut all the dead wood out, and then just, particularly on hydrangeas.
Right.
Just wait till you see the buds coming up, and then cut right above that. And they'll all come back. Fertilize them, mostly all of your evergreens, with some holly-tone, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Holly-tone or beloygonite or a good organic fertilizer.
Right,
That's enough of that.
exactly.
There we go.
There you have it with the winter damage.
All
So
right.
do we want to talk about spring maintenance now, and where do we want to start?
Well, I got a chart over there, and I'm going to start off by, you know what, folks, we should be cleaning up the yard with all the leaves, that's elementary. We all know that. But don't forget to do the gutters, because that's where the mosquitoes breed up there. And that wood pile that you had a plastic thing over and it holds water. Make sure that you shake that loose and make sure that it drains good, and clean out the wood pile. And you can prune all the dead wood out, like we just got through talking about.
Right, exactly.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And not only that, but there are certain trees and shrubs that have to be pruned this time of year.
Yeah.
And the Virginia Tech, so we don't have to list the whole thing for you now, if you just go to their website, www.ext.vt.edu, you can actually find this PDF copy of a shrub pruning calendar that tells you which shrubs to prune this month.
This is from the Extension Bureau?
And this is from the Virginia Cooperative Extension.
All right.
And they have one on deciduous trees.
Oh, all right. Yeah. One on evergreens?
And then one on evergreens.
There we go. You know what? I have a little saying when customers come in the garden center and ask, when should I prune my evergreens? I always kind of say to them, well, I'll tell you what. If you look at the book, you prune evergreens like your yews and your junipers and so forth. When the new growth starts to look the same color as the old growth, okay, which is usually around Father's Day, all right, you don't prune until that time mostly. However, if they are already too high in front of the window, already too far out onto the sidewalk, cut them today.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Right. And all your deciduous plants, your forsythias and your weigelias and Spirea van Hootii and all the rest of those guys, prune them after they're through blooming as soon as possible. And do that same thing with your azaleas. Prune them after they're through blooming. Because if you wait and go on a vacation and come back in July or August and prune those azaleas, it won't hurt them, but you won't have any flowers.
But the best thing is to think of 4th of July. Don't prune any of those azaleas or rhododendrons after the 4th of July, because you're right, they won't have the flowers.
Yeah. And you know what? The lawns are a big problem now. They all want to put down a pre-emerge to stop the weeds. Now, there's about 6 or 7 or more different pre-emerges that you can buy. When you go into Brick Garden Center, ask the staff there, or Misty will be there, and she will show you. I'm not going to go over every single one of them.
Right, there's so many items.
But we did bring a couple samples.
Yes,
what
we
did.
did. They're right behind you.
Oh, here we are.
All right.
Oh, here's one here. This one. Let me set this up here so Joe can look at it. I'll get these flowers out of the way here.
I'll help you.
Go ahead.
All right, so this here is corn gluten. And corn gluten is an organic pre-emergent.
Right.
It's also a fertilizer. And actually, initially they were researching it as a fertilizer, and they discovered that it works as a pre-emergent.
That's right. It has to be put down about, I was reading the label on the back of this, although I already knew it. You have to put this down about 3 or 4 times a year. Don't just put it down one time and say that's it. No, it has to be put down at least 3 or 4 times a year. And it's harmless to the dog and the cats and the kids and all that.
I've seen dogs roll around in it. They love it so much.
And you know what they came out with this year?
Yes, I have it
liquid.
right here.
You got it right there?
Brought it right here.
Joe, look. Granular or liquid. Hook it to your hose. That's 2,000 square feet.
Right.
Now, we're not promoting the company. We're promoting the product, corn gluten. You might find this by different companies, okay? This bag does 2,000 square feet. Then they have a bigger bag. I didn't bring it in. It does 5,000.
Too heavy. 5,000 square feet, too heavy.
There's so many different products today to use as a pre-emerge. Some of them you have to repeat it in about 3 weeks. And some of them do a great job on crabgrass, but not too good on weeds. And you go into your garden center and you can discuss that with them at that time.
Well, actually, what's important also that with a lot of these pre-emergents, you can't overseed for 2 months, but there is a crabgrass pre-emergent that you can overseed, and that's the chemical Sidron.
Sidron, yes. I don't think I brought that, but there is a product called Sidron, and then you can seed the same day with that.
Right, exactly.
Now, we're not going to spend a lot of times on the lawn, but I tell you what, this product right here, in the flower bed, let's talk about the flower bed. Folks, get your pen and pencil out, write this down. There's a word called Treflin. Write that word down, Treflin. And there's about 5 or 6 different manufacturers that make this product, and with different names, but there's the key word. Treflin can be used in your landscape bed around the junipers, around the azaleas and all of that.
That's right.
And it can be used all over the yard and in the flower beds to keep the weeds from growing up, the grass and all that.
It doesn't injure the flowers at all, which is so
No, it doesn't hurt the
wonderful about
plants.
the product.
In fact, our church, the good father wanted to know, John, we don't have any volunteers to do weeding around the church anymore. What can we do about that? I says, Father, we're going to get some Treflin in there. Throw some Treflin down. They don't have to ask for volunteers.
Right, exactly.
How about that, folks, around your churches or your business? All right? Your office. You don't have to go out and weed. Works very good. Doesn't hurt the plants at all.
Right.
All right. Now, where does we go from here now?
Well, how about the fertilization? And fertilizing your trees,
Yes.
fertilizing your shrubs. I mean, the good news is most of our shrubs in this area, with the exception of lilacs and boxwoods, are primarily acid-loving. So products like Hollytone or the Miracle Grow acid-loving for plants are good fertilizers.
Yeah, I'm not going to go. I have a chart, but I don't know what I do with it. Maybe I have it here. If I don't, I'm going to ad-lib it. Boom. Folks, write this down on your paper and pencil. With your paper and pencil. There's 3 numbers on every bag and bottle of fertilizer in the United States. Nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash. Always in that order, right? And the nitrogen, the bigger that number is, the faster your plants will grow. Okay? Faster your plants will grow, and it makes many leaves and dark green leaves. The second number is superphosphate, and that's for root development, stem development, and flower development. Okay? So the bigger that number is, the better flowers you have. And the last number is a potash, and that's for the muscles, the strength, and disease resistance. So if you go in the garden center and buy 5-10-5, that's going to help your flowering and developing roots and a strong stem. But if you go in there and ask for 20-10-5, it's going to be a mostly growth.
That's right.
In fact, I saw in your at Burke over there the other day when I was over there, you have one there that I think it was 10, 58, and 10. It's a big high.
Right.
Gotta put flowers
Exactly.
on a 2x4.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And another good thing before you fertilize your gardens, especially because sometimes, or your lawns, you want to know what your pH is.
Very important.
And the Virginia Cooperative Extension will do soil testing for you.
Yeah.
And so we have these soil test kits that you can pick up at Burke Nursery.
What are you going to charge them for?
Oh, we don't charge them anything.
Okay.
And you get a full report, and the report tells you how much lime to apply.
Yeah.
It tells you what type of fertilizer to apply.
Yeah,
And
I'm going to
it
open up
gives
that, Misty. There you are. It's a little old box. You put the soil right in there.
Right.
And they get quite technical on the directions there, but you just dig in there. You don't want the grass, you want the soil. And put that in there and right on there for a lawn or for a flower bed or
Well,
maybe for
actually,
vegetables.
what you do is you put all the information
That they have
here,
there.
and they have a special form where you put the information of
Yeah.
what type of lawn it is,
Check it
what
right
type
off.
of grass, what type of garden bed it is,
Yep,
and
that's right.
it's very easy. And if you don't want that, you can also get a pH test at Burke Nursery, where you just put a little water in with the chemicals, and I didn't bring any with
No,
me
I
to
saw
show,
on the-
but they're little tubes.
I saw on your end counter there you had some testers that you stick in the ground. They're pretty accurate too.
Right, also, yeah,
Yeah.
the pH monitors.
All right. Okay.
So, what
Pretty
about,
much transplanting?
yes,
Oh,
what about
folks,
transplanting?
tell them about perennials and transplanting irises and peonies if they had to. Although they should do it in the fall, but go ahead. You talk about perennials for a minute.
Well, I mean, there's so many different perennials to be considering. I mean, there's the perennial bulbs that you can plant. There's the summer bulbs, which was why the peony reminded me of that, because that comes either as a bulb
Or as a root,
or
yeah.
as a tuber, or as an actual plant. And the other is that if you want to take a look at like your liriope, this is a good time to cut back that liriope and get rid of the extra growth so that it flushes out and grows better. And we talked about some of the annuals, like the pansies, and this is also a great time to prepare your garden beds as well.
And every single plant that you see at Brick Garden Center, it's time to plant them. They wouldn't be there if it wasn't time to plant them. So you can go ahead and plant at this time of the year, and you can certainly divide if you want to. Any perennial, you want to give your neighbors some of your perennials, dig them up, divide them, and give them some of them, okay? And if you do it when they're very dormant, let's say it's a shrub. Let's say it's a little forsythia about that big. If you dig it up, you don't have to have a big earth ball on there. They can be bare naked because it's still asleep. Let me tell you, I worked for many years for a company up in Massachusetts that would plow out the forsythias out in the field that they have in row, same way with roses and all the deciduous shrubs. And we would follow behind them and grab them up, bare root, in bundles of 10 and throw them on a wagon. And they're stored all winter long in a warehouse, like in a stall, like a horse stall. And all you see is roots. And then come January, they open up their book and say, let's see, we're going to send Brick Garden Center 15 of these and 20 of these. And they pack them up in a pot and grow them. They were bare naked in a warehouse all winter long. So don't feel bad about digging up a deciduous plant that still hasn't had any leaves. It will still survive, but don't do that with an evergreen.
Right. And actually, this is one of the best times to plant your fruit trees.
Oh, yeah.
Because the longer of a season that you give your fruit trees, the better you have to. I'm talking the eating fruit, the apple trees and the persimmon trees and the pear trees. So that's a good thing to do. And then, of course, roses is an interesting thing when it comes to pruning, because roses.
Oh, yeah.
Because roses you prune around now, but your climbing roses also want to be pruned in June and July as well, if you really want to get that rose to climb the direction you want it to go. And a lot of people forget that second pruning, especially on the climbing roses.
Yeah. Now, there was something I wanted to say something here about a minute ago. Brick Garden Center has some of these bulletins, and it would behoove you to go in and ask for them. We're not going to talk about it today, but one of our shows we're going to talk all about vegetables.
Right.
But we have a bulletin here. Hold that up, though. There we are. On vegetables, when to start your vegetables. And here's another one here on what would you put in a 10 by 10 garden, okay? What kind of food would you put in there? We'll talk about that at another show.
Right.
But these bulletins I'm offering you.
And the other thing is this Gardener's Idea book, which is a free book.
Yeah.
And what's great about this book, spring is also a good time to start thinking about your container gardens or start thinking about what you want to do around your yard. And this is a free book that actually gives you some ideas. So you don't always have to search the internet. You can actually get it out of a book every once in a while. And we have these books at Brick Garden and Nursery Center.
You know, at this point in time, many people are wondering, well, what about I do for insects and so forth? Go into the garden center. There's a product over here. I got it over here someplace. Here we are. This one here. And what about this one? That's a good one too,
Oh,
right?
yes, All Seasons Horticultural Oil.
This is a very safe product, right? Neem, you like that, don't you?
Neem oil is actually my favorite. And
For insect control.
it's a 3-in-1.
Okay, go ahead.
It's insect control, it's spider mite control, it's a fungicide.
That's right.
It's totally organic. Years ago, I actually went to the USDA website for the Agricultural Research Services Division, and they were looking at neem oil as a way of controlling beehive collapse.
Right.
So I'm all sold on neem oil as
I
a
am
good
too.
product.
There's another one I like, though.
But the
It's all
horticultural
season.
oil,
Horticultural.
absolutely.
You know what's so nice about that product is it suffocates the insect. It's like putting Vaseline on a robin's egg. It won't hatch. God forbid anybody do that.
Really?
But anyway, it's like putting oil It suffocates the egg. It suffocates the insect itself. It gets into their lung system. So this is very safe. And this is very safe for those who are looking for safe stuff to use.
Right.
And of course, when you go into Burke, ask the team over there, and they'll guide you on the right plant product to use.
We always want to see what's going on, what are your needs, and how that best can be serving you.
Could I have some of those bags?
Oh,
Misty?
yes, we each talk about the grass seed.
I'm going to set a lot of these up here, and while I'm talking, Joe can sort of go across on some of these. We're not promoting any particular company. I'm promoting Sun and Shade, Dense Shade, and what's this one here? Black Beauty.
That's the blend for full sun.
When you go into the garden center and you don't know what seed to buy, basically, folks, there's only 3 major seeds on the market today. And that's the bluegrasses, okay?
Right.
And there's dozens of them. And they grow in 100% sun and 50% shade. And what's nice about bluegrass is every September and October, it sends up 4 to 6 new rhizomes. It replaces its own species. That's what's nice about bluegrass. 100% sun, 50% shade. Then there's another seed called tall fescue, and that's what's in these too, tall fescue. Tall fescue grows like corn, one clump, okay? And it's used on football fields, soccer fields, playgrounds, and so forth. It's tougher than bluegrass. It'll grow in all-day sun, just like bluegrass, but 75% shade. So it's a little more shade tolerant than bluegrass. But you have to seed more of that because it's a bigger seed. It takes more seed because it's a clump grass.
Right.
Then there's a third one, and that's for deep shade. And it better say on there, chewing red fescue, creeping red fescue, and so forth. The chewing fescue.
Exactly.
Those grow in deep shade. And if you buy a dense shade one and put it on in all-day sun, it's going to fade away sometime in July or August.
Yeah.
So get a blend when you walk into the garden center. Get a blend.
Now, the one other thing, too, with the chewing fescue and the red creeping fescue, especially if you have a shady area where you have a slope, because those 2 grasses sprout so quickly, they can actually help in an area where you have a slope contain erosion.
That's right, yes. Mm-hmm. And of course, you can fertilize and seed the same day. Doesn't make any difference in that seed whether it goes down first or second.
Right.
Okay? First or second.
But I have had people ask me, well, can I put them in the same spreader? I go, no, because the seed and the fertilizer, they're 2 different sizes.
Yes, and in fact, the fertilizer cracks the seed open.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, and you can also lime, and the best time to lime, of course, should have been last September and October. But you can lime now, but I'm not too fond of liming with a fast-acting lime and nitrogen fertilizer at the same time, because sometimes that lime will react with the nitrogen and evaporate some of it, but not all of it. But I guess that's enough on that. I don't know.
Now, you did bring up this fertilizer that is good for both seeding and sodding.
Oh, yeah.
And what you'll see a difference in the fertilizers that are for seeding and regular fertilizers. The regular fertilizers have a high nitrogen and either 0 or 2 for that middle number, very little to no phosphorus. But the seeding fertilizer is just the opposite. I don't know if they can
18.
see the number there.
It's a high middle number, 18.
Right, a lower nitrogen number and a high middle number because those seeds, those roots need the
Like I told
energy.
you 10 minutes ago, the middle number is for root development, okay? And when you're putting sod down, don't lay that sod down on hard ground. Scratch it up. It's got to be loose, okay?
3 inches it needs.
At least, yes.
At least 3 inches.
And when you're seeding your lawn with the grass seed, when you're throwing it down among the existing grass like that, that's going to protect it. But if it's a bare, naked spot, scratch it up, or buy topsoil, make it loose, and cover it up.
Exactly.
Okay? Oh, there's so many things. Gardening is so much fun.
It is. I mean, if you'll pardon the pun, we've just scratched the surface of all the gardening. So we're actually looking forward to being able to talk about more things with gardening as well. And The one other thing that I do is I keep a gardening journal. And I didn't bring my gardening journal with me, but basically every time I plant a